Welcome, Coleman Report Live. Interesting times session, Lance.
Oh, absolutely, Bob. Guys, you've heard me over the last several years talk about how important servicing and liquidation is. If your email is not blowing up with requests for deferments, payment extensions, things like that, just hang on. It's going to start because you're in uncharted waters.
Tell everyone what you just told me before we started the show.
Well, I was just saying, in the time I logged on, I've been receiving deferment requests from customers. And I think everyone is going to experience the same thing with restaurants shutting down, or in Northwest Arkansas, Bob, they're not shut down. They're doing social distancing. So I was talking to
Orange County in Southern California, where I live, they've shut down everything.
Yeah, and my understanding is Houston, Texas, where my boss office is, everything shut down. But even with social distancing, I was talking to a small business owner, Bob, who said it cut their capacity by 60%. So even though they're still open, and he said nobody's coming in.
Yeah, and you can do takeout, but that doesn't help the waiters or waitresses. And those are all friends of mine because I work out of the house. And those have all become friends. And so I work out of the house, so I go out to lunch every day, right?
It's, I think that, I am incredibly concerned about the health aspect of this, but the health aspect, we'll get a handle on that. We are getting a handle on that, and we'll take care of that. But the economic side of it is going to last for a while.
You and I both started in the 1980s. Prime hit 21.5%. Fine. We still got a paycheck. We got a 2008 was a economic disaster, which may put us into bankruptcy. But now they're saying that we may die from this. So I
think that we're old enough. We've been through this a few times before. I think this one, the difference is, I think this one will affect all 50 states. And it will affect.
West Virginia's got their first case. I was going to move to West Virginia, but now they got the first case. All right. Hey, John Rossi, Source Media, American Banker. Welcome. What's going on, John?
Everything is going on, Bob. And I'll preface this by saying,
that's why we bring you on, because you're a smart guy. Please, no, stop there. Please tell everyone your background. You're a Iraq, Afghanistan war veteran. Give us 30 seconds of what you did over there.
Well, I'm an Iraq veteran, but more to the point, maybe with this and some of the research that's come out, they're talking about chloroquine being a possible treatment drug for this. And I remember when I was in Korea, we took that every Monday for malaria, or to prevent malaria, obviously. But so I remember that, and I'm hoping that helps.
Well, I think we have a lot more gray matter than a one-cell virus does, and
yes,
I'm one of those who trusts the government to solve this issue. I don't know if you agree with that statement, but this too will pass. But we are definitely in catastrophic, horrible times.
Hey, Bob.
Yes.
That was a vote up from John. Go ahead, Lance.
So, Bob, as you notice, this too will pass. All of our participants will notice my cough has passed.
That's good.
All right. Let's go to the polls. Let's let John comment on this. John, there was 50 million, then there was 250 billion. Now we're 300 billion. Do you have any more background on how this is going to work?
Well, the way it seems to be working now is the lawmakers are layering one program on top of the other. None of the programs that we talked about before, the $50 billion that Senator Rubio wanted to have, the plan by Representative Velasquez, which would call for direct lending by SBA, similar to the one that's in effect now, the $7 billion program. All of those are still active, and all of those may find their way into whatever final bill Congress passes. But the big news now, as of yesterday, is the $300 billion.
I mean, that's
that would
huge.
be,
John, that's huge.
It's huge. It's colossal. And because it's so big, what Senator Rubio wants to do, similar to his $50 billion plan, is have banks, credit unions, and other lenders, not necessarily SBA lenders, certainly all SBA lenders, but possibly other lenders approved by Treasury, they would be the distribution point for the money. They would make the loans up front. They would be guaranteed 100%, and more importantly, or more interestingly, the loans possibly would convert to grants at the end of they're talking about 6 weeks, or between now and possibly the end of June. The details are still being worked out even as we speak. But anyway, the borrowers could get the money as long as they use the money for the intended purpose, which is support of payroll mainly, but also some regular operations, things like buying regular necessary supplies, and also paying mortgage, rent, or utilities, things of that nature. Then the loans would transfer into grants, or convert to grants.
John, in 2008, what we did as a government, we gave Wall Street banks a bailout. We gave General Motors a bailout. They're basically grants. What I appreciate in this administration is they're focusing on Main Street, which employs 67% of our employees. So, I mean, that's a huge, huge pivot, and I'm glad to see that. On the ground, what's going on with your contacts?
My contacts are that it is what was sort of very amorphous yesterday, and what was just talked about as of yesterday evening.
The world's gone mad. We've
Exactly.
gone through this in 2 weeks. The world has gone mad, and every day our head explodes. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead, John.
No, but this program, in addition to being remarkable for its size, is remarkable for its speed. It was conceived, or at least announced yesterday afternoon. And as of yesterday evening, when I was talking to sources, there was no documents, there was no paper, there was just simply what they were discussing in various press conferences and comments. Today, there's finally some framework, some legislative language. They plan to vote on this. They'd like to vote on this weekend. So, presumably by Sunday, there will be something passed. They will. But, what that indicates to me, I just don't think they're going to be able to develop all the regulations and rules and guidelines necessary in the span of 72 or 96 hours for a $300 billion program. And that indicates there's going to be a lot of work on the other side for SBA to do, on the execution phase, because once Congress votes and the president signs it, and I'm certain he will, then it's all execution.
You and I have both good friends at SBA. These people, we don't want to call them government bureaucrats, because they are definitely dedicated to solve this issue. And I know I was talking to them over the weekend, and I'm sure they're going to work this next weekend.
They'll probably be working around the clock.
Yeah, these people are pros. Go ahead, Lance.
One of the things I hope is in the package is funding to allow SBA to add substantial number of contract employees, because I was at SBA after 2008, and we used a lot of temporary term employees to help us get through that crisis. This one's even bigger. SBA, there are great people at SBA that do an incredible job.
No, they are. They're professionals.
But they're going to need help. They're going to need help, a lot of help.
And they have the resources to do it. I'm a small business, and my wife and I had a long talk, and we're dipping into our 401k to make sure we're going to keep all our employees paid, and we're going to do that. And no, I agree with you, Lance. These people are professionals. You and I and the people we know at SBA are great, and they want to make it work. So,
Bob, if I could add one more point to this, and this is a detail that might get lost in the sort of shuffle that's going on now in the just intense work of trying to put something like this together. But I did speak to one banker, and one of the things he was, very mindful of is he was, at his bank as the CEO after the financial crisis is, they used SBA, in the aftermath of that in a big way to try to get business and the economy back on its feet. And it worked. But what happened was, the bank stepped up, they made loans, they took risks. And then a year or two later, when, some of the loans started to go bad and at a higher rate than was normal, a different group of officials at SBA was in charge of, overseeing that part of the business. And they were a lot tighter.
That was Lance.
and they were tighter, and the banks got dinged. That's the term he used. And he's hoping that will not be the case now, that banks will not be, I don't like to use the word punished, but they won't suffer, so to speak, as a result of doing their national patriotic duty, which is to help the economy. And they're sort of being enlisted. You can look at it that way, to make these loans up front.
Well, I think John makes an excellent point. He's talking about Recovery Act loans, and there needs to be something in there that protects the banks who step out and make Recovery Act loans that might default 5 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road, and suddenly they're submitting a guaranteed purchase request and they get beat up because they didn't do it right.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Great question, great answer. Hey, let's go to, I know we're running out of time. Let's go to the polls real quick.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I think this is a great question, Bob, because I think the only way you get this money out there is using participant lenders. I know the disaster lending offices will get a lot of it out, but it's such a substantial amount that you got to have participant lenders.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with the responses on that. SBA. John, you were saying, give us the stats for Katrina and the hurricanes. How much billions were lent to small business borrowers during that time?
I believe John is off the line.
John is off the line. Well, okay, I'm gonna.
Well, Bob, I was there during Katrina,
right,
but I don't know the numbers, but they are minute compared to what we're talking about.
I think it's 12 billion. I could be wrong. Don't hold me to that question.
Yeah, the numbers we're talking about in this circumstance are substantially larger.
Substantial, and SBA needs to use participant lenders to.
Okay. This poll question, Bob, I'm real passionate about. One of the things that's going to be important in disaster funding is that we get it to the borrowers timely. Most of our participant lenders probably have experienced this. You collect a 4506T from the borrower, send it into IRS, and they beat you up and say the form's not filled out right. So you get it filled out again.
I love the response. I agree.
You go through this. Hey, Bob, here's my solution. Hopefully somebody at SBA is listening. What if we get signed tax returns plus electronic proof that they submitted the tax returns to the IRS? I do my tax returns on TurboTax, and I can print out a sheet that shows I submitted it and that IRS accepted it. 4506Ts and getting the transcripts, in my opinion, Bob, sometimes can delay a loan weeks, if not more than a month.
Lance, I got a nasty letter from the IRS last week saying they did not get my 2018 tax returns. Well, I sent it to them, but they said we never got it.
I have borrowers. First of all, the IRS is overly picky about the forms, and I understand they're protecting private information, but not being able to disperse until we get the transcripts creates a situation that would delay getting funding to small business borrowers who really need it. So I really think, Bob, and this is, it doesn't have to be long-term. There needs to be some sort of alternative that allows us to collect signed copies and some sort of proof that they sent them in, which again,
and everyone, and there's a lot of fraud out there. Katie's going to talk about that in a moment.
every taxpayer who uses an accountant, they have electronic proof that it was submitted and accepted. If you use TurboTax or any other online tax service,
All I know is I submitted mine electronically and the IRS never got it. Probably went to China.
This poll question I'm pretty passionate about. If we want to give funding to small businesses in a timely way, we need to consider an alternative here.
Let's go to the third question. This isn't a blatant plug for our webinars, but have you had this happen?
Bob, I think most lenders may have had one of these at some point. Not very many.
I'm glad to see those results.
We have an enormous crowd today, so that's very positive.
Record breaking. And I want to personally thank you all for hopping on. And this is our best show ever. So thank you very much. All right, let's bring Katie in. Katie, what's going on?
Right. So on Tuesday, we heard, I heard Marco Rubio discuss the new relief bill that is in the House right now. And there's a lot of bills that are really being presented at the moment. And, he's got his own bill that he was pushing. And he said this might be better than having nothing, really. And obviously, you can see all the things that would be involved. And there's a great article at the House website that you can just check and see more information about it. It's just things are moving so fast right now. We're seeing bills being introduced right and left right now to try to help small businesses and everyone who's hurting from this.
Well, yeah, good reporting. I mean, Lance, we're talking SBA last year did $45 billion. We're talking about $300 billion in the next year. I mean, that is just unprecedented.
It's crazy, Bob, but you know what we want? We need them to move and give us some clarity on how this is going to happen. I've gotten 100 phone calls in the last 2 days from small businesses that are customers of mine and just people that know me saying, how's this going to work? Well, I've seen a lot, Bob, in the news reports, and of course, we're reporting what we're seeing as well at Coleman Report. I want some details. It's time for us to know how this is going to be implemented.
Lance, you and I all have friends at SBA. They're working 24/7. They're doing that.
The SBA is doing their part. We need Congress to do their part.
I think they have, haven't they?
Well, we need the bill passed. Whatever bill.
Yeah, we need clarity of some sort.
Yeah, it's going to pass. All right, major announcement. We are pivoting, and we are going to have a daily show. Same time, same station. And I know, Lance, you can't be on every day, but we're going to do a daily show. I'm looking at 5 different questions, so we're going to pivot again, because that's what I get to do as an entrepreneurial small business owner. Vince says, I think banks can and help, but I agree that the banks shouldn't be punished if we make loans on behalf of that. Fine. Jerry says, he's a SCORE volunteer, says, Presidents wants a 1-week turnaround for its $50 billion directly disaster program. Lance, how quickly can SBA move to implement the $30 billion?
Well, the problem is they're going to have to set up disaster offices and staff those disaster offices. Back in 2010, when I was at SBA, there was a disaster and we had to lend, for lack of a better word, some of the employees in the Little Rock Commercial Loan Servicing Center to the disaster centers. Plus they added term employees. SBA will be efficient and effective, but it's not going to, if we get the details next week, they're not going to be disaster offices, I don't think, immediately. It'll take a little time to get it set up and to get it working.
I understand how government works, but I agree with you, Lance. I mean, they have an all hands on deck mentality. I talked to them on Sunday. So,
but the quickest way to get the money out, Bob, is to give us participant lenders the ability to get this funding out, because we're already here. Just give us some guidelines.
Corey says they utilize a Form 8821 to get tax transcripts. I don't even know what that is. Do you know what that is, Lance?
Well, the 4506T is what
No,
we
they
want.
said, she says they use of 8821 to get tax transcripts back the same day or the next day. Corey, we're going to follow up on that. That's everything. Anyway, and Barbara, I'm going to hold your question over for tomorrow because it's difficult. Anyway, well, we are officially in interesting times. I'm going to cut the program short because I don't think we need to go beyond 25 minutes, but we will have the same show starting tomorrow. You'll all get the link, and we have a ton of questions. Lance, we have looking at the attendee list, we have a record crowd. So, my job, Lance, is to be the calmer in chief. How do you feel about that?
Well, we'll work our way through this, Bob. And of course, I'm appreciative as a participant lender of Coleman Report bringing information to the table to help us understand what's going on. And I'm always excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Texas has been canceled. North Carolina was canceled. And what's your travel policy, Lance? You've been canceled?
Well, we're like every bank in the country. We're being discouraged from traveling.
Well, discouraged is different than encouraged or nullified. So that's pretty cool.
But every bank in the country is in that mode right now. Nobody's wanting to put their employees on a plane, in an airport, in a hotel. And I think it is the right thing to do. But there are other alternatives like webinar training that we do that will take care of you.
That's what our pivot is. Hey, everyone, I really, really appreciate all of your attendance. I'm not even going to push. We have webinars coming up. I'm not even going to push that. But Lance, are you going to be on tomorrow? How often can you be on, Lance?
Bob, I'll probably have to join by phone.
That's fine.
Joe and I are going to test out some video at some point, but I'll be on by phone tomorrow.
Okay. Everyone, stay calm. This too will pass. We've lived through these issues before, and it just, in 2 weeks we've gone from a rocking economy to interesting times.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah, go ahead, Lance.
One final thought. When I was at SBA 2010, 2009, 2010, 2011, those were all huge SBA lending years, and the economy was in the tank. So while others may be looking at this as, oh my, guys, if you're a good, skilled SBA lender, this is going to end up being a great opportunity for you to help small businesses.
Great sign up. Thank you all. Talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you.